Father of Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes went to jail. Mahomes Senior was taken into custody in Tyler, suspected of driving while intoxicated last night. His bond was set at $10,000 and he was released a few hours ago.
In a few days, the San Francisco 49ers face off against the Kansas City Chiefs for the Super Bowl. This is the second time over the past 5 years that these two teams are meeting with each other. First time being Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl. The event is just days away and Patrick clearly needs to be focused on winning his third Super Bowl. But unfortunately for Patrick, a huge distraction came up, particularly in the form of his dad. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! For the Super Bowl, PrizePicks is blessing us with an easy way to make $100. All Patrick Mahomes needs is one passing yard in the Super Bowl for a square to hit, which means he's pretty much a free square. First, download PrizePicks and use my promo code Mikerophone when you sign up to get up to $100 deposit match on your initial deposit, and then make these picks really quickly before they change the lines on them. So for me, I'm pairing Mahomes' free square with Isaiah Pacheco, who's had at least one touchdown in his last 5 games, so that's easy, and Christian McCaffrey, who has had more than 88.5 rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. Of course, I give away all my picks for free on Instagram, and I highly recommend you turn on notifications for my Instagram story so you can get the picks quickly before they move the lines and you lose your advantage. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? At this point, Patrick Mahomes is a man that needs no introduction. Unfortunately, also at this point, Patrick Mahomes' family members are also individuals that you're quite familiar with. I mean, a few years ago, Jackson and Brittany burst onto the scene, and at least back then, the only thing that people were flaming Jackson and Brittany for were things like this.
People that doubted us and hated on us and thought we were going to lose this day. Yes, I did!
Yes, if you guys forgot, Jackson and Brittany were the dynamic duo of cringe that unfortunately came with Patrick Mahomes, who is looking like one of the most transcendent NFL stars that we've had in quite some time, maybe even ever. There's no individual that's had a start to their career the way Patrick Mahomes has. There's no one that's been as prolific in the start of his career the way Patrick Mahomes has either. The AFC Championship is quite literally called the Patrick Mahomes Invitational for a reason. But unfortunately, with Patrick Mahomes came his family that still were in the process of growing up and getting accustomed to this newfound fame that Patrick has found. But it seemed like they were really struggling with what to do with it. And the worst case of all is without a doubt his brother Jackson, an individual that we saw grow up into the wonderful human being he is today. In the very beginning, when we first met Jackson, he was just posting little TikTok dances onto social media, and it was very easy to make fun of him for it. I mean, these were just regular TikTok dance trends, and although they aren't necessarily the type of dance moves that I would post onto TikTok, at the very minimum, he wasn't doing anything disrespectful or rude. He didn't come off as holier than thou, pompous, or self-righteous. But as time went on and Patrick became more and more successful, that seemed to change. The first incident was when Jackson Mahomes dumped water on that Baltimore Ravens fan. A few weeks later, Jackson Mahomes was dancing on the memorial of the great Sean Taylor when he was being honored in a game versus the Washington Commanders. Next thing you know, just within a 5-month span, Jackson Mahomes is attempting to get a restaurant canceled for not serving him food quickly enough, literally posting onto his story how terrible the restaurant was. Now, fortunately, the restaurant clapped back in an awesome way, and fortunately, we didn't really hear much from Jackson Mahomes until this past year, where he was quite literally caught on camera allegedly attempting to force himself on the owner of a restaurant called Aspen's. Now, Jackson would get arrested for this, and the video evidence is there, allegedly, because the case is over. But the damage done to this woman was so terrible that she had to close her restaurant and refuse to testify in court because she was afraid of what would happen to her because she was going up against the Mahomes family. So it's not a stretch to say by any means that this family is a very privileged family as a result of Pat's senior success when he was a pitcher in baseball and his son's success, Patrick Mahomes II, who might one day be the greatest football player of all time if he continues on this incredible trajectory. Now, out of every member of Patrick Mahomes' family, there's no question about it, Pat Mahomes Senior is the most charismatic. The first time we found out about him was a year ago when he was talking trash to the Cincinnati Bengals after beating them.
You got a cigar of your own, I see.
Yeah, I'm smoking the Joe Burrow.
You smoking on the Joe Burrow?
I'm smoking on the Joe Burrow.
How's it feel to be headed back to Super Bowl?
It feels great, you know. My baby boy did what he always do. He gonna show up and show out. And I'm just glad he did it.
And I honestly didn't think there was anything wrong with this. I thought he was celebrating his son's win. He was taunting his opposition, but it wasn't too much. And as a matter of fact, he did it once again once the Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens.
It was a special blend, Lamar Jackson.
That's a special blend.
It was a special blend. I flew these in from Cuba. I had them shipped in from Cuba just for this occasion.
Now, I'll admit, I think out of all of Patrick Mahomes' family members, I think his dad's the most charismatic out of all of them. But that doesn't mean that what he's being accused of doing isn't any more inexcusable. It's honestly one of the most selfish things you can do, and a truly bad thing to do as well. And the timing of this is truly horrible, because according to TMZ, Patrick Mahomes Senior was arrested for driving while intoxicated for the third time or more, TMZ has learned. I love the language of this. It's like,
yeah, this is either the third time or more. There may have been more times that he had a DUI. We just can't figure that out for you, but it's at least 3.
Yeah, the 53-year-old father of Patrick Mahomes was arrested Saturday night in Texas, according to online booking records. Bond is reportedly expected to be set later on. This isn't Mahomes' first arrest for DWI. He was also reportedly arrested back in 2019 for DWI, second or more, which he was sentenced to 40 days in jail. He reportedly served the time on weekends to fulfill his requirement. It just goes to show, man, if you have money, you really could get away with anything. It's kind of crazy. I mean, serving that sentence on the weekends sounds like a pretty simple way to serve a sentence. Now, the article continues to say it's a pretty wild time for Mahomes Senior to be arrested. His son is just days away from competing against the 49ers for a Super Bowl title. Pat Senior made waves earlier this month for joking that he wouldn't sit next to Taylor Swift at the AFC Conference Championship game. Now, it's unclear if he'll make it to the Super Bowl. Now, the good news is there is a report on whether or not he will make it to the Super Bowl, and he has been released on $10,000 bail. There were more details that came out about the situation that's absolutely bizarre. According to Ryan Dunleavy, Patrick Mahomes Senior had an open beer can in his car when he was pulled over by the police and admitted to having a few beers earlier while watching a game at a local bar, per Ryan Dunleavy. Bro, like, I understand having a couple beers at a bar before driving home. Like, I could understand you rationalizing that,
Hey, I only had a couple of beers, so I'm just gonna drive home myself.
but the part that's crazy about this is
The open beer can in his car.
Like, that is wild. Now, Mahomes agreed to perform standardized field sobriety tests and displayed the 4 clues of intoxication during the horizontal gaze nystagmus eye test, 5 clues during the walk and turn test, and 2 clues during the one-leg stand, according to police. So this is obviously terrible timing for Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes' son. This is like the biggest distraction the week of the Super Bowl, finding out that your dad got arrested and he might not be able to make it. And it just seems like it's a recurring theme in Patrick Mahomes' career. This dude is a model citizen, and it seems like he can do no wrong on the football field and off the football field. Yeah, there was the time that he got frustrated at the referee calling offsides on Kadarius Toney, and at the end of the game, he came up to Josh Allen and said this.
I've never seen, man. Offensive offsides in that moment, man. F***ing terrible, man. Terrible, man.
And that may have made him look like an asshole a little bit, but at the same time, I just took it as Patrick Mahomes was being very competitive. He was very on brand for who he is. To have your dad get arrested for a really stupid decision the week of the Super Bowl, when there's no doubt in any of our minds that he definitely could have afforded a driver, is just really unfortunate. And honestly, I have a lot of empathy for Patrick Mahomes II, because this man's a model citizen, but it seems like time and time again, his family cannot handle the fame that comes with his success. And really, it's not his fault. There's so much that he has to manage on his own, from his career to his investments to his sponsorships and endorsements, the fact that he has a child with his high school sweetheart, and now on top of that, the week of the Super Bowl where he's trying to further his legacy, his dad gets arrested for doing something very selfish. At the end of the day, you already know my take on all DUIs. It's so unnecessary for individuals that have a significant amount of wealth not to have a driver if they want to get drunk. I mean, hell, I know I would do it. Or at the very minimum, man, in the late 2000s, it was really difficult to figure out who your DD was, and one member of the crew could not drink if you wanted to go out. Nowadays, you just have to push a button on your phone and a car will magically appear and pick you up. So I don't really understand the logic or the philosophy, and I think it's really terrible timing for Patrick Mahomes II. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about all this, man? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.